From the evil secret about the minions to the theories behind some of your favorite cartoon characters, here are 8 creepiest cartoon conspiracy theories. Number 8. SpongeBob. So who, or what exactly, lives in a pineapple under the sea? Is it truly SpongeBob SquarePants? Or possibly a mutated sea creature who's suffering from radiation poisoning? In this Nickelodeon cartoon, the characters here live in a town that's known as Bikini Bottom. Strangely enough, this sounds a lot like the name of the tropical island that experienced repeated nuclear detonations from the US called Bikini Atoll. Some of the tests were set off at the bottom of the Bikini Atoll underwater, causing much harm to sea creatures because of the radiation. Everyone that seemed to live here is just a bit wackier than usual. Some believe the debris from the blast done on Bikini Atoll turned into the little area known as Bikini Bottom, where the mutated fish and sea creatures would live. Nickelodeon eventually confirmed that Bikini Bottom was a reference to Bikini Atoll. Occasionally, viewers might even notice a few mushroom clouds on the set. And what about the talking squirrel known as Sandy? What is she doing at the bottom of the ocean? In order to test the effects of how radioactive the water was, they might have sent a few squirrels that were taken from Texas as test subjects. The first few squirrels that were sent underwater didn't survive the radiation poisoning. Finally, Sandy was the only one who was used to experiment a prototype of a suit that was being designed to protect scuba divers in radioactive water. But she was lost during the study and ended up at the bottom of the sea. Number 7. Ash in a coma. Everyone from around the world is probably familiar with Pokemon one way or another and wonder how Ash could really be living in such a fantasy world. One theory out there goes that Ash was actually struck by a bike and put into a coma. The strange, mysterious creatures he comes across are all a dream and a result of a side effect from the heavy medications he was treated with. Many of the characters he encounters throughout his journey are actually exploring emotions he has in his subconscious. Team Rocket displays his inner demons and Ash's negative side. Ash growing up had a fear of encountering wild animals after he was attacked by a dog growing up in Japan, and his dreams allow him to feel powerful by capturing these animals and having other animals defend him. During his time in the coma, he would receive electric therapy in order to revive him. This is why he feels such an intense closeness with Pikachu, who's an electric Pokemon. The theory goes more into detail about other characters and is interesting to look into if you're a fan of the Pokemon series. Number 6. Dexters Laboratory. If you've ever watched the show on Cartoon Network, you'd know the basic premises of a kid growing up with his sister and his parents, who had a massive laboratory down in his basement. His parents were always oblivious to the fact that their son was a scientific genius, and he was always creating unbelievable feats of engineering. His sister Dee Dee knows about the lab, but they keep it secret from mom and dad. The theory goes that one day, Dee Dee came into the laboratory and caused a massive accident to take place. This unfortunately killed his parents. After blaming himself and feel guilty, Dexter actually resurrected his parents, which made them slightly dumber in the process. This is why they wouldn't notice the lab and continue to pay the ridiculous electric bill. Other theories claim that he's dumbed them down by repeated brainwashing after each time they found out about his lab. Dee Dee understands the capability of what Dexter can create, so she wouldn't dare try to tell the parents what's going on anyways. Another theory out there suggests the possibility that Dexter's Laboratory is showing a prelude to the other show on Showcase of a serial killer. Dexter takes his gift in scientific knowledge and becomes fascinated with the mechanics of murder. Number 5. Fairly OddParents. You might have come across the show on Nickelodeon known as Fairly OddParents. The young boy and protagonist Timmy has a pair of fairy godparents that always seem to help him out whenever he's feeling down. Although this is just a theory by all means, some are curious exactly what the fairies represent. Could it be that the two fairies actually represent Timmy under the influence of antidepressants or medications? Some believe that the purple pill Wanda represented something like Prozac, and Cosmo represented Zoloft. Zoloft is known to make people a little bit more giddy and hyper like Cosmo, and Prozac is known to make depressed people feel more analytical. You can really notice in the intro how depressed and colorless life is for Timmy while he's riding the bus home from school. Then, when he gets home and sees Cosmo and Wanda, everything brightens up and all of his wishes are granted. Although we can't show you the intro, the more you look into this one, the more it seems to make sense. Timmy seems to show all the telltale signs of a depressed kid in school. He theoretically uses the antidepressants to cope with neglect from his parents and the abuse from his babysitter, Vicky. Instead of dealing with the problem themselves, the parents have the evil babysitter watch him and let him take the medications on his own will. All his bizarre journeys are hallucinations and are a result of taking too much. Number 4. The Hey Arnold Theory. The Hey Arnold theory became so popular among fans that many began to question the creator, Craig Bartlett, what the true source of his inspiration was. It was even popular enough that they made a backstory episode to try to explain better where Arnold came from. As the theory goes, Arnold was a child that the creator met one day in New York City who had a deformity which resulted in a football-shaped head. While speaking to the mentally unstable child, he realized that he had no real friends, and everyone he was talking about was imaginary, also with oddly shaped heads, so he feels normal that way. At school, the kid would suffer from many bullies because of his oddly shaped head. Called him hurtful names such as football head and other names. He had a wild fantasy that one of the girls that ridiculed him the harshest and seemed to hate him the most actually had a huge secret crush on him. This was Helga, who we see harshly criticize Arnold every day. The fantasy was created so he wouldn't take all the words in such a negative tone. So fascinated by this story with so much detail and love, much of the cartoon is centered around Helga. The orphan child telling the story had to live with who he believed was his grandparents. But they were actually his parents who had him at an older age, resulting in a few complications. There's one complication called Arnold Chiari he was born with. That was why the creator of the show decided to call him Arnold. But of course, this is all just a theory, right? Minions and the Illuminati. There's often metaphors in cartoons that we might overlook, but it's pretty clear in this case. The Minions are being portrayed as little lovable yellow puffs of adorableness in their films, but this is just enough to keep us from understanding their true goal. Theories would suggest that the Minions are actually representing slaves of the Illuminati who would allow the secret society to carry their dirty little missions to control the world. First of all you really need to do is take a look at their face. Some Minions only have one eye. And you know what else only has one eye? That's right, the Illuminati. The Minions look to serve and search upon a leader to order them around. Without having a master, the Minions become depressed, unorganized, and simply can't do anything right. Under control of a supervillain such as Gru, they unify and are capable of great things. It almost seems as though the Illuminati created this film themselves as subliminal messaging to show what Illuminati leadership is capable of. These little creatures are portrayed as being lovable and working for evil power, and you see a lot of similarities. Let's not forget that this film was produced by Universal Studios with help from Illumination Entertainment. They probably have a few members of the Illuminati pulling the strings and want you to get your kids exposed to their ideology. Just think about it. Number 2. Flintstones Apocalypse. What if the truth of the Flintstones was pretty much more grim than you might think? What if they weren't living in the past, but actually the future? This could actually be the artist's depiction of the post-nuclear apocalypse, and mankind is forced to resort to primitive ways once again. This theory was first suggested during a 1987 episode of the Jetsons Meet the Flintstones. The Jetsons get into a time machine and travel to what was supposed to be the future, and they ended up supposedly in the past. But not according to conspiracy theorists. They claim that the machine didn't malfunction, and this was meant to be a deep message to the audience about the apocalypse if nuclear war played out. The Flintstones also appear to have technology far in advance from the Stone Age, such as a television, paper money, and guitars in some episodes. As we know, dinosaurs didn't exist at the same time as people. This would suggest another period of time where they do, like in the future. During the time when more people were worried about a nuclear apocalypse happening on a daily basis, maybe the Flintstones have a deeper meaning than we thought. Number 1. Rugrats Conspiracy Theory. Possibly the creepiest cartoon conspiracy theory floating around the internet is the Rugrats. You might remember Angelica, the superficial little brat who always seemed to pick on the younger ones in whichever way possible. Well, it turns out that all the babies in this show were complete works of Angelica's insanity and inability to cope with reality. Chucky and his mom suffered an unfortunate fate in a car crash, leaving his dad as a mental case. Tommy was actually a stillborn, and after the incident, Stu Pickles also went crazy, making toys in his basement for the son he never had. The twins Phil and Lil were dreamt up by Angelica after some strange circumstances. The DeVilles were forced to have an abortion. Angelica couldn't figure out if the kid was supposed to be male or female, so she dreamt up the twins. This is why the DeVille's mom, Betty, is an active feminist and supports women's rights. The person one would assume is Angelica's mother is actually her stepmom, whose primary concern is work. She still idolizes her biological mother, who died from an overdose, who's portrayed as a doll, Cynthia, with wild hair. The only real baby in this entire story is Dill, who confused Angelica. When she realized he wasn't taking her orders, she struck the kid, leaving him a little bit slower than usual. This is why Dill is a little bit strange in the All Grown Up series. Susie is Angelica's only friend, but unfortunately, they began to dispute when Angelica followed the same footsteps as her mother. As we all know, children have vivid imaginations, but when those visions don't go away, you know there are some problems.
So which one did you think was the most interesting? Be sure to leave us a comment in the comment section and subscribe for new videos every day. Any suggestions on future videos? Let us know in the comment section and maybe we'll feature your video next.